She's an ordinary person, just like us. We go through the motions of our daily lives, jobs, and routines. She seeks a new path, chasing down dreams, to explore farther than she's ever been.
Okay, hello. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Evelyn. I'm 21 years old. Uh, um, uh,
Okay, Evelyn, thank you. I think the best thing for you to do is study for another year or so and then maybe apply next year.
Determination and courage drive her to take the necessary steps to achieve her dreams. You are in charge of your future. Only you can make your dreams come true.
What I love the most from Wall Street English is all the facility here is very modern. You can see here nothing to compare to Wall Street English, and for the method here also you can learn 101 from the native, or also you can join a group so you can explore more with other people. And also in here the hospitality, especially all the staff member are very welcoming and they're very nice. They make you feel comfortable to learn something that is not your language. And why don't you try to experience yourself? Next level with Wall Street English.
Good afternoon, dear Honorable Speaker from Wall Street English, Mr. David Hennessy, the Board of Directors of ALSA LCUE Board of 2021, the Project Officer of ALSA Ecom 2021, and all participants of the Public Speaking Skills webinar pre-event of ALSA Ecom 2021 in collaboration with Wall Street English. The theme of today's event is how to enhance your public speaking skills. Public Speaking Skills webinar is a part of the pre-event of ALSA Ecom 2021 held by the pre-event division of ALSA Ecom 2021 that aims to improve the public speaking of its participants and the general public. Throughout this webinar, we will be discussing the common mistakes that people make while speaking in public. My name is Jonathan, and I'll be your master of ceremony for today's event. Without further ado, I would like to invite Ms. Alia Alicia as the project officer of ALSA Ecom 2021 to deliver an opening speech. To Ms. Alia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for the opening remarks and also the introduction. Hello, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, and Salam Kebajikan for us all. Greetings, future champions. My name is Alia as the project officer of the 25th ALSA National English Competition, and I welcome you to the pre-event of the 25th ALSA National English Competition in collaboration with Wall Street English, How to Enhance Your Public Speaking Skills. I would like to give my biggest appreciation to Wall Street English as the official partner of ALSA Ecom 2021, Mr. Dave Hennessy, as the speaker of today's webinar, Kak Nila and Kak Rani as the representatives from Wall Street English, the Board of Directors of ALSA Local Chapter Universitas Indonesia Board of 2021, and my beloved team, all of the committee of the 25th ALSA National English Competition, as this event will not be able to run well without your help. It is more than an honor to also welcome, whilst also thanking all of the participants of today's webinar, or shall I say future champions, for using your Saturday afternoon to learn together with us all. As we all know, public speaking is an essential skill, especially in today's era. The skill would not only be beneficial for your future career, but also your everyday life to share your thoughts and opinions to the people around you. Understanding the importance of public speaking, ALSA Ecom takes the initiative to provide an accessible platform to learn public speaking together with our future champions. I surely hope that learning together with us will be able to give a massive impact to your current public speaking skills. One last thing, don't forget to be active as you might be our best participant for today. So all of the future champions, never stop to strive to aim for excellence and initiate a massive change in the future by becoming our future leaders. I'll see you soon in the main event of ALSA Ecom 2021. Thank you so much for your attention. And last but not least, ALSA, always be one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Alia, for the speech. I surely hope the event will go well today. Moving forward, I would also like to invite Mr. Herlangga Umara Saputra as the Director of ALSA LCUE Board of 2021 to deliver an opening speech. To Mr. Herlangga, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angga, as the Director of ALSA LCUE Board of 2021. First of all, let us thank the Almighty God for His blessings so that we can gather here today in this event. Also, on behalf of ALSA LCUE, I would really like to express my deepest gratitude for Mr. David Hennessy and also to Wall Street English for helping this event. I also would like to express my highest appreciation to all of the committees for preparing this event and also to the participants that have took the time to be here today. I sincerely hope that this event can really enhance your public speaking skills since it is really important, not just for the competition itself, but also very essential for our future. Please do be active and also enjoy the event. That is all for me. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom. Om Shanti 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 Om. Namo Buddhaya and may ALSA always be one.
Thank you, Mr. Herlangga, for the opening speech. Next, I would also like to invite the representative of Wall Street English, Kak Nila, to deliver an opening speech. To Kak Nila, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jomar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Hopefully, everyone is doing great. So first thing first, let me introduce myself. My name is Nila Sukmarati. On behalf of Wall Street English Indonesia, would like to say thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. We are very pleased to be able to become partner in 25th of ALSA National English Competition held by ALSA UE. And we are very honored as David Hennessy, our native English trainer at Wall Street English, will share to you about the importance of public speaking skills to enhance your future endeavors. We do believe that English skills is now become more important since we are in the 4.0 industry era, along with our mission also to making English not only as your second language, but also part of your lifestyle. We believe that being able to speak English fluently, confidently will help you to grow in a good quality of community, will help you to grow to being able to speak English and fluently, confidently, and will unleash many opportunities as you want to accomplish your future goal. And together with our next level campaign this year, hopefully all the participants will get some new insights from today's webinar, and we would like to give our full support to all of the participants who registered to the ALSA National Ecom pre-event and the main event to give a best version of yourself. And briefly, I don't want to take too much of your time, and today will be fun and full of learning. Enjoy the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kak Nila, for the opening speech. And last but not least, I would also like to welcome Kak Rani to give a short introduction about Wall Street English. Let us welcome Kak Rani.
Thank you, Jonathan. Hi, everyone. How are you guys doing today? I hope you are doing great, safe, and also healthy in these pandemic situations. So my name is Rani. I'm the sales manager of Wall Street English Bandung. I'm so happy to be here. And then I would like to share the experiences and also benefits of Wall Street English. Can you help me to share the slide, please? Thank you. So as you guys might aware, we are in the 4.0 industry. So nowadays, English is really important, not only an additional value anymore, but more to the main value that we need to be improved to be ready in this digital and globalizations eras. So I would like to share some of experiences and benefits if you join the community. Next slides, please. Okay, so here's some short story about Wall Street English. So basically, we've been here in Indonesia since 2007. We are currently have 9 centers in Indonesia. We have in 4 cities in Bandung. We have in Jalan Sulanjana number 3, and also we have in Jakarta. We have 4 centers there. We have in Pacific Place, Kota Kasablanka, Mall Kelapa Gading, and also Gandaria City. We also have in Tangerang, Living Word, Cibubur, and also last but not least, Pakuan Mall Surabaya. Next slide, please. All right, so in the academic, we have 4 programs. The first one is WLE Core, where you are going to get the English communication skills. We also have the IELTS test preparations, professional English specifically for the business English program, and also last but not least, VIP program. Some of you might think that in this online, everything's conducting in online, it might not effective to improve significantly your English skills, but don't worry, because at Wall Street English, we are doing online classes since 1972. So we are going to support you with the system that we have already for the online classes. And also we do have the money back guarantee to make sure that we are going to have the maximum improvement by learning at Wall Street English. We are also have the international certificate to support you with the material that we are going to deliver for you. And also last but not least, the personalized support. We believe each of individual or members are different and unique, so there will be a consultant, compasses, and also a trainer that will help you along with the study program at Wall Street English. Next slide, please. Okay, as we know, environment is one of the success keys to improve our English. So in order to achieve that, we are going to have community for you guys to be able to learn, practice speaking English by the real topics and situations. Next slide, please. We have 4 communities at Wall Street English. The first one is LEAP. So if you join LEAP, we are going to talk about educations, youth developments, entertainment, and also sport. If you guys interested in talking about the startup, business development, career developments, or e-commerce, you can join the syndicate. Recharge, all about the healthy lifestyle, work-life balance, self-confidence development. Last but not least, Create. We are going to talk about the arts, fashion, culture, dance, music, and also design. Next slide, please. Okay, please. Another slides. All right, thank you. So this is our IELTS test preparations. I believe some of you guys have the plan to continue your study and getting scholarships. In order of that, you're going to have IELTS definitely. So this is our IELTS test preparations, and the benefits of our IELTS test preparation is you are going to have the IELTS guarantee success. Next slide, please. Okay, guarantee IELTS band score, unlimited IELTS tryout tests, and also access to more than 120 IELTS online exercises, plus My English Lab. Last but not least, you also will get the additional 1-hour classes. Next slide, please. In our center, and also access to IELTS Social Club. Last but not least, our professional English program or Pro Skills. Next slide. So this is our professional skills. We are going to deliver 4 big materials. All right, so the first one is meeting, presentations, business writing, personal branding. Okay. All right. Thank you for Bianca. Okay, so I think this is for Was It English. I believe I have delivered all the message about the short briefing about our experiences and also benefit. If you guys join our community, so later on there will be an exclusive consultations with our personal consultant that you guys will get. So please use that for having the personal course plan. And I can see that you guys need to join the main session with theirs. So thank you, Jonathan and everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Karani. Before we start today's agenda, I would like to inform that all participants are obligated to fill in the re-registration form, as it is a prerequisite to acquire the e-certificate for today's event. Now, we would like to introduce our speaker for today's public speaking skills webinar. We are very honored to have Mr. David Hennessy. Mr. David gained a Master of Teachings degree from Australian Catholic University and also a Bachelor of Engineering degree from the University of Melbourne in Australia. He also got a certification of TEFL International Accreditation from Uni TEFL in Chiang Mai, Thailand, a certificate IV of Frontline Management from Kaplan, Australia, and is currently pursuing a Bachelor of Arts degree from Deakin University in Australia. In terms of work experience, he is currently an English trainer in Wall Street English, Bandung, Indonesia. He was also experienced as an English and mathematics teacher in Karata Senior High School, a first grade teacher in Anuban Payal School, Thailand, a project engineer for Redflex Traffic Systems in Melbourne, Australia, and also front of house team for the Museum of Old and New Art in Hobart, Australia. Before we begin the webinar, we would like to remind our fellow participants to always keep the camera on during this event and respect the rules as provided in the guidelines. We hope that the participants behave properly and respectfully during this event. We would also like to remind the participants that there will be a Best Participant Award at the end of this event, so we hope that you all will be active. The best participant will be receiving special prizes from ALSA Ecom 2021 and also from Wall Street English. Without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Mr. David Hennessy as our speaker today. To Mr. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for that excellent introduction, Jonathan. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, excellent. And are you able to see the screen?
Yes, we are able to see your screen.
Excellent. So thank you everybody for your attendance. Welcome to this webinar on the power of words. I'm excited to get started. So before we begin, I'd like to show you guys how to raise your hand using the Zoom meeting controls. There's an image here showing you where the control is located. You can also use the keyboard shortcuts on the screen. That's Alt-Y on Windows or Option-Y on Mac to raise your hand. We will be using this quite a lot during the session because there are quite a few participants, so I'll need that. So let's begin. Let's try this out. So what do you think is the #1 fear in the world? If you think you know, can you please raise your hand using those controls? Waiting for a raised hand. Oh, thank you. So is it, excuse my pronunciation, but Camel Istia? Camel Istia?
Yes, it's Camelinja.
Thank you. What do you think is the #1 fear in the world?
Perhaps it is height.
Think about the topic for the webinar today. Callista, did you have a guess?
I think it's failure.
It is failure in a sense, but it is a specific failure. Sania, what do you think?
I think that is if we do not have a good public speaking.
Correct. So this fear is known as glossophobia, the fear of public speaking. It is the #1 most common fear in the world. So we'll talk today about why public speaking is important and give you some tips to overcome this fear. But I'll spoil the ending here. The fear will never go away. I'm still quite nervous, and I've done thousands of presentations. So why is public speaking an important skill in this modern world? You've already heard a few reasons, but I'll show you a few more. Number one, you need the ability to present your ideas. So no matter what your role is in life, there will be times when the ability to present your ideas to the world around you is important, be it making a sales pitch at work, holding presentations in your school, or simply putting forth your ideas to convince a family member to take the vacation that you want to take. You'll need the skill of public speaking to get your point across and win others over to your side. Secondly, in a silent world, the man with a voice is king. So in a world where it is the norm to remain passive and quiet, the one who can break the silence will stand out like a giant, attracting all of the attention and admiration of a silent crowd. So the single best way to elevate yourself in this world then is to learn the art of public speaking. The world's full of people just looking for a voice to follow, so public speaking can allow you to be that voice. Thirdly, it will increase your influence. So if you want influence over the world around you, you need to have a medium to spread your ideas and opinions. Public speaking just so happens to be one of the best mediums for reaching out to the world around you. By learning how to effectively communicate through speaking, your message will be heard and understood by a much larger audience. Number four, it is perhaps the most revered skill of all. So no ability or skill is raised out of proportion in the modern world than the skill of public speaking. Today's world is quiet, so anyone who is able to break that silence, as we said, will stand out. Even a moderately skilled speaker will appear as an eloquent professional compared to the silent masses. Number five, it forces you to face your fears. As I said, I'm doing this right now, it's common. Let's face it, you're afraid of getting up in front of a crowd, and there's no shame in that. Nothing to be ashamed of. Every single one of us has this fear to some extent, but the beauty of public speaking is that it forces you to confront this fear. By learning how to speak, you gradually ease yourself into standing in the spotlight in front of the crowd, and one of the greatest fears of mankind ceases to have its power over you. So hopefully that's convinced you. To run you through what we're going to do today, the main purpose is to help you improve your presentation skills in English. To do that, there will be two main sections, and at the end, hopefully we'll have time for a quick presentation from you guys. Part one, I will be telling you what to say. So we'll be focusing on choice of words, vocabulary, but also the type of grammar to use and how to structure your argument and your presentation for coherency. Secondly, we'll be focusing on how to present, how to prepare your presentation, how to use your body language, how to use your voice. And then finally, at the end, time permitting, we will have a session for practice. You will each have the chance to do a 90-second speech. Probably not everybody, we have a large number of participants, but I encourage you guys to start thinking about that opportunity, and please do make the most of the feedback available today. Okay, choice of words. I want to show you a quick video. Just allow me to check that the audio is going to work on this one, sorry. I'll need to turn it on. Okay. Jonathan, can you please give me a thumbs up if you can hear the audio on this video when it plays? I would like you to focus on the way this person is speaking. What do you notice about the length of the sentences?
The body has limitations, the mind does not. We focus so much on what goes on from the neck down that we forget it all starts from here. Everything starts from here. If you're not mentally ready, you're never really physically prepared. And that's where the preparation starts. I firmly believe that everybody in this room, everybody on this planet has a gift.
Okay, it was a short clip. Could you please use that raise hand function to raise your hand if you can tell me what you noticed about the word choices or the sentence length? Waiting for a hand raised. Long or short sentences? Gabriella, what did you notice?
I noticed that he used simple words, but they were able to captivate the audience into listening to him more.
Absolutely, simple words, but powerful words. What did you notice about the sentence length did we have another hand up? Or Gabriella, would you like to share?
I noticed that he used really short sentences.
Right. So one question I get asked from people who are not native English speakers and they're concerned about presenting in English is, what is the grammar I need to know? What is the vocabulary that I need to know? And I tell them not to be concerned about that because your goal is to create focus. Smart people don't waste their time trying to convince people. You do not need to convince your crowd that you have flawless, perfect English by using advanced vocabulary and grammar. It is not the point of your speech. Simple phrases and short sentences are the point of your speech. These will penetrate people's unconscious filters. They will create meaning. You want the audience to understand your message, not hear your words. It's not about getting the most and most advanced words packed into a speech. It's about the audience hearing your message. They have to understand your message and walk away with the concepts implanted in their heads. If the fear that you have is about the grammar and vocabulary of your presentation, please comfort yourself with this thought. You don't need complex grammar to make your point. In fact, it's not the most effective way to make your point. So I want you now to imagine you have been asked to present a speech. You have been asked to speak about how to thrive during the pandemic. To thrive is to grow, develop, or be successful. How can you thrive, grow, or be successful during the pandemic? Because we have a large group, we will be using the chat function to share some of our ideas. And I do encourage your participation, but please listen carefully to the instructions. Firstly, I would like us to list some keywords, some important vocabulary for this speech. Remember, it doesn't need to be complex, it needs to be strong and direct. I would like you to share your responses in the chat now, which I will monitor, but please, could we limit our contributions to one post per participant at the maximum? So take a moment now. If you would like to write your words down on a piece of paper also, I encourage you to do so. Please feel free to take notes from the chat from other people's contributions. So examples of keywords. How could you thrive during the pandemic? I'll give you some examples. I've put some on the screen. Oh, I don't think I'm able to annotate. I'll put mine in the chat. So these could be words such as socializing. Still important in the pandemic. I suggest 3 to 5 words is enough. Socializing, meditation, self-care. Those are my 3 contributions. I'll give you about 1 minute, 60 seconds to think of 3 contributions you can add to the chat. Healthy mind. Thank you. Exercise. Excellent. Oh, and one person's already given us a sentence. We have to adapt toward the transformation. You are 1 step ahead, Jason. Thank you very much. Refresh. A lot of words to do with self-care. I like this tact. Try new things. Absolutely. I hope that you're all doing these things, by the way. Please take care of yourselves during PPCam. Acceptance. Oh, you guys have flawless vocabulary. This is excellent. So I'd like you now to write down a few words from the chat which resonated with you, or write down the words which you contributed to the chat on a piece of paper if you have it handy. You'll use them later. What I'd like you to do now is choose some of these words and create 3 main points for your presentation. Your presentation should have 3 to 5 main points only, and these should be something that you repeat and you want to drive home. I would like you to make a short, powerful sentence to explain each of your main points and share one of them in the chat. Please share only one because we do have a large number of participants. I'll share mine in the chat now. Socializing. So keep it simple, short sentence. Socializing is essential to your well-being. even if it's virtual. Socializing is essential to your well-being, even if it is done virtually. One sentence, short, powerful. "60 seconds for your contribution. Please do write it down." Wow. Ishtifa, I agree with you. Breaking your day-to-day routine by doing something could help you give your brain a fresh start. Excellent. That one, see if you can condense it a little bit. So which words can we take out? Breaking your day-to-day routine could help give your brain a fresh start. If there are words you don't need, take them out for your main message. You want it to be short, simple, and powerful. Yeah, life is too short to think too much. Just enjoy. Excellent. There are some great contributions. Thank you, guys. Ooh. Fantastic. Do keep posting those. We'll continue, but these will stay in the chat and feel free to use them for our activity later. We will collaborate, we'll work together. So please share your ideas with the group and please feel free to use the ideas that other group members have contributed. Thank you, guys. Sorry to rush you along, but we do have limited time today, so we'll keep moving. So once you have a quick list of ideas like that, this is how I start planning every presentation, be it a lesson, be it a webinar like this, be it a large public speaking event in person. I will always start by isolating my main point and my key vocabulary. But after that, it's time to organize your ideas, how to structure them. When I began teaching, my mentor said to me, if your plan can't fit on a post-it note, it's too complicated. My advice for you is keep your plan brief. It should be no more than 6 dot points. Plan out how you will welcome your audience, of course, and how you will explain the overall structure at the beginning. Hopefully I've modeled this for you. This is what we've done already. We're now in part 1 of what to say. This is the first thing I'll present to you. Secondly, I'll be talking about how to say it. And finally, we'll be concluding with a practice session. After that, at the end, we'll conclude with a question and answer session in which you can clarify any points which were unclear. So when I went through that, I used these connectives. First, second, to conclude. These are a good second step in helping to organize your presentation. So my 2 big tips for you are to help the audience understand your message by isolating the key points and then by signposting them, using this language to organize your presentation so that it's easy to follow for those listening. Okay. So this is my structure. I recommend no more than 3 main points, but of course, every presentation is different and will have different requirements. I should say, if you do have questions, by the way, you may put them in the chat, but because we will be using this a little bit, they might get lost. Feel free to write them down and save them for the question and answer session. That's my recommendation. Okay, there are 2 main ways to structure a point. You can lead with a summary of your main point and then back it up with evidence. Or you can lead with the evidence, with an example, with a personal narrative to engage a reader and then summarize your main point. I'd like to show you what this looks and sounds like. So I've given you a main point here about socializing and some supporting facts. I would like it if someone could volunteer to practice the organization system on the left, where you summarize your point and then give the supporting facts. It's up to you to use language to join these together. Could I get a hand raise if you'd like to do this? Effectively, you're reading the red text and then the blue text. So this is an easy way to participate for you guys, earn that award. We have a hand raised. Gabriella. Thank you.
Socialize as much as you can, even virtually. Studies have shown that socializing with others reduces negative emotions and that taking breaks with colleagues is an effective way to reduce stress.
Excellent. This word colleagues means your co-workers, and they're good people to socialize with, of course. When we organize it this way, does the main point stick in your head? Do you remember this text in red at the end? Could I have somebody to read it backwards now, the blue and then the red? Two hands up. Laras, be lovely if you could try.
Okay. Studies have shown that socializing with others reduces negative emotions and that taking breaks with colleagues is an effective way to reduce stress. Socialize as much as you can, even virtually.
Laras, which one do you think is more powerful for this particular argument? The left or the right?
I think it's the right one.
I agree with you for this one. This is
the right one.
The right one. Thank you very much. Yes. So there is a psychological phenomenon called the recency effect. And what it shows is that information presented at the end of someone's speech is the most effective at sticking in your mind. So while you might be inclined to lead with your main point and follow up with the facts, I would encourage you to think about leading with the facts. And after your audience are convinced, summarize your main point and have it stick. This is not my normal way of structuring speeches and presentations, but I have begun to move towards it because it is very effective. Any questions yet? Feel free to put them in the chat or write them down and raise a hand if it's something urgent. I'm going to show you two short clips of presentations now, and afterwards I'll ask you which one is more engaging and why. So think about what you could say to answer that question.
Over the past 2 years, youth unemployment has been on the rise. It currently represents just under 40% of all unemployment in Australia. Young graduates are leaving university and finding it more and more difficult to enter any form of creative industry. Now, the common stipulation is that you can't get a job without experience, but you can't get a job to get the experience. Now, meanwhile, 42% of small businesses failed in 2003 to 2007, and the figures haven't improved much. Amongst many reasons this is happening is a consistent lack of quality in their branding, marketing, websites and designs. The kind of training that these graduates have just spent 3 to 6 years training for. Now, what if there was an enterprise that bridged these two sets of frightening statistics? I want to build that bridge.
And we have a second clip here. So this is a qualified public speaker, this first one. He's done a good job. Let's have a look at the second one.
And it's insert basic shapes for you, Cal.
Okay, merci Geneviève. Moving primitive polygon shapes help me to fill the available space. And from there, it is easy and quick to establish the right proportions. As a set designer, if you think you have a good idea, you still have to share it with the entire team and make sure everybody understands properly your proposal. Now let's pretend that this cube is a cabinet. A maquette is a great tool to visualize shapes, but still, it is not enough to understand and feel the real size of them and the impact they can have into a space volume. Now I'll take this sphere and I put it over the cabinet.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
I will pause it there. So could I get you to raise a hand, please, if you can tell me which one of these, number 1 or number 2, is more engaging, exciting, and interesting? Arlene, what do you think?
I think number 2 was more engaging because it provided visuals for the audience to see.
Thank you. That was my main point, and you've got there very quickly. Thank you very much.
And it's insert.
Oh, excuse me. So variety is key to a presentation. And that is not just visual variety. Could be things that your audience will see, that they will watch on a video. Physical props are always great if you can bring them in, but it includes all of the senses. Voice is important. Variety in the voice is important. So you may notice during this presentation that my voice is not the only voice that you hear. We're watching videos so that there is variety. It doesn't get too monotonous and you stay engaged. An hour is quite a long time to present. If you can, consider bringing in senses that you wouldn't normally consider in your presentation, like touch or smell or taste. This is great if you have something like a cooking demonstration, but you may have to get creative to work it into many topics. I'll show you now a quick video so you don't get too bored of my voice on other ways that you can engage your audience. Hopefully it'll load.
Have you ever had a presentation where the audience just didn't look interested? Or they seemed interested at first, then suddenly switched off? In 2003, the average person's attention span was 12 seconds. But thanks to social media, in 2015, our attention span dropped to 8 seconds. That's lower than a goldfish. Researchers say the optimum time you can hold a human's attention during a presentation is 18 to 20 minutes. Attention is split into 3 sections: sustained, selective, and alternating. Sustained is the ability to focus on a specific task or activity for a prolonged period of time, like when you're playing a game. Selective is focusing on one activity among others. Imagine being at a cocktail party, talking to a friend. Someone says your name, you hear it, but didn't realise you were paying attention. Alternating is when you're alternating between 2 or more tasks. So, how can we ensure we make more engaging and memorable presentations which captivate and maximise audience attention? We have a few tips and tricks to show you. Telling a story is way more effective during presentations than cold, hard facts. It takes the brain a quarter of a second to process and attach a meaning to an image, whereas it takes around 6 seconds to do this with words. This is how long 6 seconds really is. That's because we're visually wired. Ideas presented graphically are easier to comprehend. So why are we still flooding our audience with words and facts? You need to remember, even if the audience's attention span is 20 minutes, it will slowly decline as you go through the presentation. It's good to change things up. Why not find an interesting video to show? Or even ask the audience questions. Talking with the audience allows you to get a sense of whether they're paying attention. Also, getting them involved in the conversation will make them remember and feel like they're collaborating. Audiences remember 80% of things they see or do. Twice as many customers say interactivity is more memorable than statistics. So why not keep them on their toes? Studies say 50% of audiences are persuaded by visual presentations, and 67% were persuaded by verbal and visual presentations. You see? Making your presentations more engaging and visual will help keep your audience awake and interested. So next time you make a presentation, keep it visual, keep it quick, and use a story. You'll be sure to win them over.
Okay, thank you guys. Lattice, if you can turn your microphone back on, could you tell me one thing you remember from the second video on our last slide? What did you see? If anyone else would like to respond to, please put your hand up. Tell me, what did you see on the last slide in that speech? What were the visuals? Hand up from Diko. Diko, what did you see?
I think from the video, what I can say is the audience is more interacted with pictures and audio rather, and make sure to make the presentation quick.
Yep, excellent. So when we watched these two videos. So we had this on the right here. Can anyone tell me, what do you remember seeing? What was this about? Can I get a hand up if it's stuck in your mind? What is it about? Doesn't have to be exact. Hannah, what do you think?
From what I remember, it is about stage management, about preparing the stage and how it would look like.
And using modeling software to organize it. Absolutely. Can I get a hand up if anyone can remember what the left speech was about? Because I don't. Hand up if you remember. Yeah, Callista?
From what I remember, he was talking about youth unemployment.
Sure. Okay. That's a great memory, actually. A lot of people find it hard to encode things in their memory without a visual prompt. So Callista, you have a very good audio processing memory. Well done. But a lot of people, when they only have that audible stimulus, they just forget. So do please remember to put visuals in your presentation when you can. And thank you both for your answers. So moving on now. I want to talk a little bit about body language. I will mute these videos so there'll be no audio. While the video is playing, you can raise your hand and tell me what you notice about the body language. So we've watched this video already. What do you notice about the way he is using his body? Hand up, please. Good things and bad things. Dika?
I think if I think the audience will be more interested if we use a body language. So it's a good thing.
Sure, but what is he doing that is good? Which part of his body is he using to engage the audience?
I think it's the hands.
Hands, for sure. Anything else that he's doing well or not well? Hand up, guys, if you'd like to answer. Yep, a hand up from Callista again. Thank you.
He's moving around and he's looking at the whole entire room.
Looking at the whole room. Good. And Michelle, what would you like to add?
I see that he is so confident and that is making the audience will keep going listening to him.
Excellent. So I want you to tell me if you think this was the good example or the not so good example. Here is our second one. Let's watch. Still muted. Is this better or worse? Watch his body language. And watch how the audience responds to his body language. Avira, what do you think?
I think the second one looks a lot more confident. The first one, body language is pretty small, making him look a bit less confident than the second guy.
Exactly. Now, the shoulders were hunched forward, and this is actually something I have to constantly think about when I'm presenting to you sitting at my desk because my computer is lower. So I'm really trying not to do this, which I would naturally do, because it does make you look smaller and less confident. Hannah, did you have something to add?
I see the second video. He's trying to explore the stage more.
Right.
Whilst the first one, suddenly he looks timid because he's only swaying left and right. He wants to provide body language, but he's not actually engaging to it.
Absolutely. He's really trying. Good eye contact, good hand gestures, but he's not confident in the way he moves. Arlen, did you have anything else to add before we move on?
I agree with Hannah, but he's also, for the second video, he's also using a lot more facial expressions. He's smiling more and his face shows a lot more expressions that makes it more lively for the audience.
Of course, yes. So this is really important. And again, something to focus on when you're stressed. It's too easy to just not smile at all. So do try to do it. So I'll give you a breakdown of the key skills that I think you should be focusing on now. Here we go. Right. So the key things to focus on with your body language are posture, gesture, eye contact, movement, and facial expression. So with your posture, as we said, keep good posture by standing straight with your shoulders back, stay relaxed. Your feet should be about shoulder width apart. Don't cross your arms or hunch like this, as our first speaker did, and face the audience, as much of the audience as you can, using your open posture. That's my recommendation. So hand gestures emphasize your words, as we saw in the second video, but as well as keeping your audience's attention through any kind of hand gesture, you'll need to keep the variety going in your gestures. So you can't just do the same thing as the first speaker did, because after a while it loses its power. So positive gestures are a way to sway your audience. And when you're using visual aids, that's the best time to do it. So make sure you're pointing, you're looking at the data. I can't do that on this presentation, unfortunately. I'm trying to model as many of these tips as I can. But if you have a prop or something to gesture at, of course, do it. It's a way of physically directing your audience's attention, and it's very powerful. Eye contact is the next one. So both speakers were very good at this. When you're speaking, try to move from face to face. This is what I would do if we were in the same room. I would be trying to speak to as many of the people in the crowd as possible. Of course, now that we're on Zoom, all I can do is look into the camera, but I'm trying to do that as much as I can. So especially important, eye contact when answering a question from the audience. So that implies that you are credible and you are sincere. You are being honest and direct with them. Please remember your eye contact, especially when answering questions. Movement we discussed, try to move around the presentation space because it makes your presentation more dynamic, makes it more engaging. So use movement to illustrate transitions too from one point to another. When you're done with your first point, move to a slightly different space on the stage if you can, if you don't have a podium, and it will help your audience mentally recognize that you have moved to another point in your speech. Stepping towards the audience is also a way of creating a positive feeling. Just be careful when you do this so it doesn't become aggressive, but use this when you want to encourage your audience. When you have a point that you really want them to buy into, move towards them slightly. And lastly, your facial expression, a little smile goes a long way and makes your audience feel comfortable and at ease. So do try to smile or no one will have fun. Okay, so I'm going to show you a next example. The body language is not great, but we're not focusing on that now. We're focusing on the vocal pitch. So I want you to listen only to her voice this time. And I have a few questions for you afterwards.
Hi, I'm Emily Johnson, and I'm going to be talking about the different areas in the marketing industry. So the first area that I want to talk about is the direct marketer, which is like a position usually in a company such as Sony or Nike. For example, they'll have like a product manager who wants to create a concept of the product they're trying to sell. Usually, however, the product manager won't be able to create the concept completely by themselves, so they usually have to outsource to an advertising agency. And then the advertising agency comes up with the actual concepts for the advertisement, to be put on TV and like commercial or something like that. For example, companies like advertising agencies are usually large companies in big cities like New York City.
Okay, so a few questions for you.
Hi, I'm Emily Johnson.
Excuse me, sorry.
And I'm going to be talking about.
So please raise your hand to answer. First question, a nice easy one. Did you understand what she said? All of it? A big thank you to those participants who are raising their hands regularly. I really appreciate that. Ishtifa, what do you think? Is that a raised hand? Okay, how about Noor Faiza? Excuse my pronunciation, I'm so sorry.
Okay. For me, I don't really get what she's trying to say because she was kind of slurring or like her words were being dragged, and I can't really get the point of her speech.
That was a very excellent point. Her words are slurring and being dragged. Gabriella, did you notice another problem?
Her tone, she didn't try to engage with the audience. It's like she's reading to herself instead of talking to someone else.
Exactly. The tone was a big problem. We'll talk more about tone in a moment. Kamalisha?
I think the problem was with her body language because she's not confident with it.
Absolutely. The body language is a big problem. I'm most interested in the voice at the moment. Callista, did you have one more thing to add about the voice?
Yeah, she always says ums and ahs.
Yes.
Both speech.
Exactly. It wasn't fluent. There was a lot of pausing. So, Callista, how do you think the audience feel when they're listening to her go, stuff like that?
I feel that the audience realizes that she isn't confident in what she's
Right.
trying to say.
Yeah, or maybe isn't fully prepared. It's hard to buy what somebody is saying if they don't sound like they're organized and they don't sound confident. So thank you for that. We'll talk a bit about the things that are wrong with her voice in a moment. But why is voice important? Now, it was pointed out then that her body language was not ideal, and I agree. And it's true that body language is actually the most important thing in your communication in terms of communicating your point successfully. This is according to studies done in the 60s at UCLA. But vocal quality is also very important. So 38% of the effectiveness of your speech is from your vocal quality. Notice that the choice of words is relatively small in importance compared to these other factors in your speech. So do focus on your body language and your vocal quality when preparing. Okay, so a few of the problems. The first one is with the pitch pattern. So this is also maybe known as the tone. Tone is a slightly different thing, but people often say tone when they mean pitch pattern. So this is the rise and fall of the voice when you're speaking. Everything that you say has a pitch pattern. If you say the same pitch pattern repeatedly, it will sound monotonous and your listeners will start to switch off using different pitch patterns. Seems is also known as intonation, and it helps give different meanings to your phrases. I kept the one pitch that whole time. It might have sounded very strange to you, but some people do communicate like this. So let's just practice this. You can keep your microphone off to do this because you're going to sound very silly when you do it. But I'd like you to think of a phrase that you use every day. It could just be good morning or something a little longer like, I'd like a cup of coffee, please. So I want you to say the sentence once to yourself as you normally would. I'd like a cup of coffee, please. Just say it to yourself like that. But now say it again with your lips closed. Make an sound like you're humming. When you do this, the sound will show you the tone that you are making. You won't be able to hear the words anymore. You only hear the tone. And when I did it right then, I noticed that all of my tones were quite similar. So if you do this and you notice that your pitch pattern isn't varied enough, focus on saying it again with the lips closed, but make the high notes higher and the low notes lower. Like that, there's more variety. The cadence is greater. And then you practice saying it the exact same way with your mouth open. I'd like a cup of coffee, please. It's an exaggerated pitch pattern, but practicing doing this to yourself will show you what your problems are and coach you through ways to introduce variety into your pitch pattern and correct your tone. So do practice this. So right then, what we just talked about was the pitch pattern about the rise and fall of the voice when speaking. Did you understand? Probably not, because it was really fast. So we'll talk now about the correct tempo or pace at which you need to speak. Because if you speak really slow, your presentation will get boring. But if you speak too quick, people won't understand what you're saying. So tempo is very important. So if you speak too fast, you're going to mispronounce words. A common question that I get from non-native speakers about presenting in English is, how can I correct my pronunciation? Speak at the right pace. That is the number one thing. Speak at the right pace. It's the biggest secret. It's your biggest weapon for clarity in your speech. Speak at the correct tempo. Most people speak too quickly when they're publicly speaking. So as a result, they lose the audience because they talk too fast for the audience to keep up with their ideas. So you need to constantly keep your nerves in check because nervousness shows through speaking too quickly. Keep that under wraps. Talk slower, deliver your speech in a more easily understood manner. And that will allow you to emphasize words, as I hope you've noticed me doing, and it will result in your speech being more interesting. Speaking slowly is not always easy. It's something I have to constantly remind myself to do. Our natural tendency is to talk extremely quickly, particularly in Australia. So you do need to remind yourself to speak more slowly. Okay. The next thing, enunciation. So when speaking publicly, some people have a tendency to swallow their words or even entire phrases. And someone pointed this out as a problem in the example before. She was slurring her words or swallowing her words. The words sound jammed together. It becomes really difficult to discern one word from another word. And this often happens when people are either nervous or excited. So be wary of situations in which you are excited and you're speaking publicly because you may slow your words together. So it's important to enunciate correctly. And you may be thinking, okay, how can I fix my enunciation? How can I correct my pronunciation? One easy way is to use tongue twisters. They're fun, they're a great vocal warm-up, but they're also just a good thing to practice in terms of creating very clear phonemes, very clear sounds with your mouth. So here's a very common tongue twister. I'm not going to say it aloud until somebody has a go. Could I get a volunteer? You can put your hand up if you'd like to try reading this tongue twister. Thank you, Ishtifa. Let's give it a go.
Okay, so Peter picked a pack of pickled peppers. A pack of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers, where's the pack of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked?
Okay, you did very well. So this is hard to say because it repeats similar sound patterns, the p, p, p. And the thing that trips people up is the P-I, Peter Piper, P-I, like that. So this is a really good way to improve your speech because it forces you to pay attention to how clearly you're speaking. So to say a tongue twister properly, you have to concentrate on what you're saying and you have to fully enunciate each word and syllable. You can't say Peter Piper. You need the Peter Piper. So you're focusing on doing that and it's good for building that habit. Otherwise, your words are unclear when you say it. So fully enunciate the syllables, each syllable, otherwise the words will get twisted. So you did really well there. Can I get one more person who wants to give it a go? See if you can say it relatively quickly, but still keep your clarity. Vidya, would you like to try? No? Or Elvina?
Yes.
Okay.
Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. A pack of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers, where's the pack of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked?
That was very clear, and your enunciation of the P was excellent. I could hear all of every word. So something like this, if your pronunciation is as good as Elvina's, you probably don't need to do a lot of these for practice, but they're a great vocal warm-up just to get your mouth moving. Okay, thank you to everyone that raised their hands. We will come back to you shortly for our next activity. So the last thing I'd like to talk about in terms of vocal quality is your volume. You need to be loud enough to hear, but obviously not so loud if you're shouting. The volume at which you speak is very important. It's important as your pitch, probably more important because you have to get this right in order for people to hear what you're saying, to discern your words. So your audience won't be able to understand all of the great things that you have planned if they can't hear you. Or if you shout so loud that you burst their eardrums and it's not pleasant to listen to, they will stop listening. So think about your natural voice. This is something that you need to consider for yourself. Are you a loud talker? In which case, if you're using a microphone, be very careful or you'll deafen your audience. Are you softly spoken? In which case, you might need a microphone. You might need to work on projecting your voice. If you have a booming voice, that's probably going to be a good thing for you. You're in luck because your audience will hear you loud and clear, but it's important that you don't blow them away. Bear that in mind. So when projecting your voice, develop this confidence. It will make your presence seem bigger. Bigger, not necessarily louder, just a bigger presence. Imagine your volume as your message, and you have to fill the room with it. You have to fill the room with your voice, as opposed to shouting. So shouting isn't going to appeal to your audience, especially the people that are closest to you in the front row. They'll just get covered in spit. Not ideal for anybody. With the volume of your voice, it's important that you relax your vocal cords. So practice humming, do some yawning before you start speaking, and that will release tension in the jaw and stretch those throat muscles that are so important to your voice. So push your breath down, speak from your diaphragm, relax your diaphragm. Instead of speaking from your throat, this will create a higher pitched voice. And some people have asked me before, how do I lower the pitch of my voice? It's too high. Relax your diaphragm and speak from lower down, in below your chest, in your stomach. So picture a target at the back of your room. Imagine just someone sitting in the back row. Speak to them. You want them to hear you clearly without deafening the people in the front. So volume is possibly the most important tool in your vocal toolkit. If your audience can't hear you, you're finished before you even start speaking to them. Okay. So key points with vocal quality. Use different pitch patterns to emphasize what you say. Practice the humming, even though it sounds silly. Speak at a tempo that is slower than normal. Enunciate each word clearly. It's not patronizing, it helps. It helps your audience. And speak at a volume that is loud enough to hear. Now, I'm reading Barack Obama's biography at the moment, and he's a fantastic public speaker. So I'd like to show you a clip of how he speaks. His vocal quality is flawless. Hopefully the video will load for us. Oh, there we go. So it's very brief, but just have a listen.
My fellow Americans, it has been the honor of my life to serve you. I won't stop. In fact, I will be right there with you as a citizen for all my remaining days. But for now, whether you are young or whether you're young at heart, I do have one final ask of you as your president. The same thing I asked when you took a chance on me 8 years ago. I'm asking you to believe, not in my ability to bring about change, but in yours. I'm asking you to hold fast to that faith written into our founding documents, that idea whispered by slaves and abolitionists, that spirit sung by immigrants and homesteaders and those who marched for justice, that creed reaffirmed by those who planted flags from foreign battlefields to the surface of the moon. A creed at the core of every American whose story is not yet written. Yes, we can. Yes, we did. Yes, we can. Thank you. God bless you. May God continue to bless the United States of America.
You could hear at the end he was yelling a little bit over the crowd, but he didn't deliver the whole speech at that volume or it would have been far too much. We have about 10 minutes left before the question and answer. So I'd like to address stage fright very quickly. So I'd like you to look at these two pictures and ask yourself, which of these is more of a threat to you? Is it a room full of people or a dangerous snake? Okay. Now you might tell yourself that, of course, a snake is a much more real threat to you than a room full of people. But the fact is your brain cannot tell the difference. When you're standing up there in front of a crowded room, you go into fight or flight. This is a response in your body that you can't really control. You are programmed as a social creature to fear failure, to fear making a mistake in front of a room full of people. and your body will react as though you are confronted with a venomous snake. So, what is my advice to you? My advice to you is to accept that fear. Can I get a hand up if anybody, ooh, excuse me, I showed you the answer. Can I get a hand up if anybody can tell me who this is? Let us, did you see the answer?
He's John Lennon.
It's John Lennon, of course. What's his band called?
The Beatles.
Yes. At the time, the most famous band in the world. And they would perform in huge stadiums. But even towards the end of his life, when John Lennon had to perform on stage, he would vomit from stage fright before he had to go on stage, no matter how many times he played to thousands of people. So the point that I want to make to you is that there is no cure for stage fright. You just need to manage it. How can you manage it? Well, you need to focus on what you can control. The first thing is to practice. Practice in front of people if you can. Imagine an audience if you can't. Visualize the best outcome that you want. Elite sports people do this, and successful presenters do this. You need to have a clear image in your head of how your speech will go when it is successful. Other than that, be prepared and be early. So you don't want to be flustered at the last moment, or it'd be very hard for you to manage that stage fright. If you're the type of person who gets stuck on negative thoughts and phrases, like, I'm going to mess this up, think of a positive phrase you could replace that with, like, you're fine. It's enough. All right, you're fine. Whenever you catch yourself worrying, just think to yourself, all right, I'm fine. And that alone, that reassurance of self will help. Also, it helps to think of it as a conversation. Of course, I was nervous when I found I was speaking to 150 people live on YouTube, but I think of it as a big conversation, and that's why I have you interact with me. Makes me feel more comfortable. Lastly, before you begin, make sure you pause, you stretch and loosen those muscles, and take a big breath, because your body will start breathing more shallowly when you are nervous, and it will cause you to get more flustered. So take that big breath in to relax yourself. Okay, so now it's your turn. We have a bit less than 10 minutes, so there's probably time for 5 people to present if they would like to. This is a mini presentation. What you will need is those 3 dot points we talked about earlier. You can scroll through the chat and find 3. That's fine. You can, if you have 3 written down of your own, you're more than welcome to use those. What I would like you to do in your presentation is to organize it. You can use these phrases down the bottom. Today, I'd like to discuss. Firstly, next, finally, to conclude. If you have other vocabulary, feel free to use that instead. You have only 90 seconds, so it's important that you stick to this schedule on the right. As I said, keep it brief. Greet your audience, explain your message, make 3 points, and then powerfully sum up your main point. I'd like to give you about a minute to prepare if you'd like to have a go. Is anybody ready to have a try now, or would you, would you like to prepare quickly? So remember, your topic is how to thrive during the pandemic. 3 things you can do. It's up to you too. If you would like public feedback, I can also send it privately in the chat. And it's terrifying. I'll plan one quickly, and then if we have no volunteers in 45 seconds or so, I'll give it a go. Okay, we have 5 minutes remaining. Would anybody like to try, or should I do a demonstration? Okay, no hands up yet. Feel free to put more ideas in the chat and I can use them, but I'll give you a quick demonstration of what you might like to do. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here today to explain to you how you can thrive, not just survive, during this current pandemic. I'll present to you 3 reasons. Firstly, one way to thrive during this pandemic is to continue socializing. studies have shown that socializing reduces your experience of negative emotions, and that will help you cope. Even if you have to socialize on Zoom, it's still an effective way to maintain your mental health. Secondly, stick to routine. It's important for you to have structure in your day. Make sure you're getting out of bed at a regular time. Make sure you're keeping a schedule that will maintain your mental health and keep you productive. If you're sleeping until midday, it'll be hard for you to get that YouTube workout in or to call that friend because you'll be low on energy. So please, I encourage you, stick to a routine. Lastly, it is said that variety is the spice of life, and I couldn't agree more. It's very important for you to continue the variety that your life had pre-pandemic. Schedule a virtual Zoom date, or better yet, socialize with your housemates if you're lucky enough to have them. Cook a special dinner, get dressed up. Before this presentation, I put on my favorite cologne, even though nobody could smell it, just so that I could feel like that normalcy in my life. It is important to me. Variety is the spice of life. Keep the variety in your life. So these are my messages to you. Continue socializing and stick to a routine, but don't forget to keep things fresh, and you will thrive during this pandemic. That's my 90-second presentation. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clapping emojis. We probably have time for 1 or 2 people to have a try if they'd like. Otherwise, we can move straight into the question and answer session if you prefer. It's daunting, isn't it? Particularly presenting live streaming on YouTube. I know all about how scary that can be. But it sounds like no one would like to participate. So I'd just like to say thank you to all of you guys for listening to the presentation and for your participation. Thank you to the people that put their hands up multiple times. Oh, Gabriella, would you like to participate or did you have a question?
Yes, actually, I would want to try to participate.
Great, we have just enough time, so let's give it a go.
Do you think it's possible to thrive during this pandemic situation? If you don't think so, well, I'm here to tell you that it's actually a yes. Here, I'll give you 3 reasons why you can thrive during a pandemic. First, you have to have self-care. Self-care is very, very important because the more you work on yourself, the more you are able to enhance your creativity, the more you are able to give the best version of yourself to others. Next, you have to communicate. There is no way that us as living human beings, we can live alone. We have to still be able to socialize and communicate with everyone. Tell them your problems and they can tell you how to improve yourself. Third, productivity. Being productive is a way to keep growing, even in times like this. When you're productive, you can make the best of what you already have, and you can learn to keep growing and keep glowing, even in your worst conditions. So, yes, that's basically all the things I have to say. My conclusion will be to care for yourself, to communicate, and to keep being productive. Thank you very much.
Excellent. You did such a great job. Well done leading with a hook, starting with that question. Do you think was a great lead in? You had great variety in your tone too. The pitch went up and down a lot. It was very engaging. The one thing I'd work on, sometimes when you pause, you get a bit flustered and then speak quickly afterwards. And your enunciation slips there. It is really good, but just be careful not to slip on your pronunciation when you get a little nervous like that. But you did fantastic. Thank you so much for participating in front of such a large audience. So guys, that is all we have time for. I believe we're going to move into question and answer now, Jonathan.
Yes, we are. Okay. Let's give a hand for Mr. David Hennessy. Thank you very much, Mr. David. I think it was a very interactive and insightful lecture about public speaking. Now we are going to move on to the question and answer session. Participants are allowed to ask questions to the speaker through the chat room below by typing the question in the chat column or directly by first typing quote permission to ask a question on mic and quote in the chat column. All right, is there anyone who would like to ask a question to the speaker? All right, we have one question here from Michelle Fai. You may ask your question on mic, please.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. First, I would like to thank Mr. David. And my question is there any particular technique
Michelle, I'm having a little trouble
or
understanding you. Would you be able
event
to post in the chat? I'm sorry.
practices that is did by there's so which you like to implement
Sorry,
um,
Michelle, I'm not able
shapes
to understand your question because the connection is having some problems. Would you mind typing it in the chat box for me so I can answer?
Yes,
That'd be
please.
great.
Okay.
Thank
A
you.
problem with your connection. Do you mind to write your question on the chat column, please? All right. Meanwhile, Michelle is writing her question in the chat column. We have a lot of questions here actually in the chat column.
Great.
So I'd like to give a chance for Gemma from STPI Curug to ask question to the speakers directly, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Jonathan, for the chance given to me. Am I clear and audible?
You are, yes.
Okay, thank you. Actually, it was a very fruitful and was exceptional, knowing about public speaking techniques. But I would like to ask some questions like how to make our content more compact, yet also impactful for the audience. Because one way to what we call to engage audience attention is through a story, right? Whereas sometimes we are too enjoying telling people stories, whereas we forget the main points of our speech or our speaking. So how to make our content more compact, but also impactful for others?
Absolutely, great question. A problem I have all the time, actually. So allow me to move back one slide. The best plan for you is a plan just like this, which is no more than 6 dot points. Start with your 6 dot points and decide how long will each one have. So if you have 5 minutes for your first dot point, you can't tell a 4-minute story. You need to practice and work out how much time you can allocate. It's okay to begin by writing too much. This is how I work too. So for this presentation, I plan 2 hours of content and then I trim it down to an hour. You have to work out what are the main points, how much time will you allocate to each. It is very easy to overrun the clock. I have a clock going, on my phone now, and I time every section. I just cleared it, I'm sorry. But yeah, so I use that just so I don't get caught up telling a story. If I see that I have another 30 seconds where I didn't expect to, I can use it to tell a story. But that's how we finished exactly on 2 p.m. because I had an eye on the time the whole time.
Thank you, thank you.
No problem.
Right, thank you to Gemma for the question and also to Dave for the answer. So okay, Michelle has written her question here in the chat column. She would like to ask, here's my question. I'm sorry for the bad connection. Is there any specific characteristic that is needed by a nowadays speaker? Should we be an extraordinary person to deliver our idea? Thank you for the chance, Mr. Dave.
I mean, I think the world would be a sad place if you had to be Barack Obama to deliver a speech, because I'm certainly not Barack Obama, but I think the characteristic that makes for good public speaking is confidence. And I think the thing that makes for confidence is confronting the fear of public speaking. And I don't think that requires anything that the average person doesn't have other than persistence. You just need to keep trying. And as I said, I've taught thousands of lessons. It gets easier every time, but I still feel that fear. I would just say the characteristic that you need is perseverance in order to overcome that fear and achieve your confidence. You're not going to be naturally confident, maybe, but you can achieve it. Does that answer your question? Oh, second question, I think from Michelle. My stance on using the word like in public speaking. It depends. It comes across as very informal. And if that is appropriate for your audience, absolutely. I will sometimes use this deliberately when teaching high school because it makes me more relatable. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think you should just be aware of what your go to phrase is when you're unsure. If you want it to be like, no problem, but choose something that is appropriate for your audience. So for me, it would be okay for a format like this. So when I get stuck, okay, I can say that golden statement, we call it, in order to recenter myself. And if you're using like, it might not be tonally appropriate for your audience. So make a deliberate selection of what you're going to say when you feel yourself getting flustered. I still said like sometimes. I caught myself doing it. It's unavoidable. Thank you for your question.
All right. Thank you for your answer too, Mr. Dave. So let's move. We still have a lot of questions here in the chat column, actually. But
Great.
let's move on to the next question from Kalista from SPHST. Would you like to ask your question on mic, please?
Yes, firstly, I would like to say thank you for making a great presentation. I have two questions that I wanted to ask.
Sure.
At the off chance that you blank out while presenting, how do you confidently continue that presentation?
Again, a golden statement. So have a word or phrase in mind which you will use when you blank. It might even just be repeating the last thing that you said. That might be your go-to strategy. You just need to have something in your head for when that happens, because you will freeze and you need to know what you're going to do. So for me, I was working in a high school environment where I would have a lot of students who were quite confrontational and they would verbally attack me. And I needed to know what to say when it happened because I would freeze. And so I just taught myself to say, okay, wow. And even just knowing that I was going to say that one thing when something crazy happened to me was enough to break me out of being frozen. So decide whether you're going to repeat what you just said or have a go-to phrase. That's my suggestion.
Thank you for that answer. My second question is, at what parts of your presentation should you include your audience?
That's a great question. It would depend on the presentation. I would say make your presentation as interactive as possible. And if there is something that your audience can say, have them say it. As an English teacher, this is my philosophy. Why tell somebody something that they know? So here we have a group of people who are highly educated, who know the answers to a lot of my talking points. Why not have them contribute? It makes it feel more collective, but it depends what you're presenting on. If you're presenting a PhD doctorate, you're probably not going to call on the audience for answers because they have no idea what you're talking about, most likely. So it would depend on the topic.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you very much for your question, Kalista, and for the answer to Mr. Dave.
Sure.
We still have more time for the question and answer session. So let's move on to the next question from Hana Alfa Zahra from PKBM Faradika. Would you like to ask your question on mic, please?
Yes. Hello, Dave. Thank you so much for the presentation. It is really insightful, and the way you present the presentation itself is also a real life example of on how we should do our presentations and speeches. So my question is, when we are doing presentations or speeches, sometimes we are required to deliver quite a heavy topic. So do you have any tips on how to convey it to the audience in a way that would still be easy for them to comprehend? Thank you very much.
As a high school teacher, this is something I have a lot of experience with, and I would say find an angle that your audience can relate to. This is where the storytelling element can be compelling. If you can think of a concrete real life example that you can use to draw your audience in, it will make it more engaging. So that is one tip. The second one, I would say, give your audience a lot of breaks. If you're going to present them with a lot of heavy content that is dense, it will require them to think a lot. They're going to get tired. So schedule some breaks in your presentation. For quite heavy, conceptually heavy content, you should present for no more than 8 minutes at a time without giving your audience a break. And when I say a break, it could be a chance to interact with somebody or answer a question or watch a video, anything that's not listening to you give more information, they need time to process it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your question, Hannah, and the answer too, of course, Mr. Dave. So we do still have more time. We still have about 4 minutes for the question and answer session.
Excellent.
Let's move on to the next question from Renata from FH Unsri. I think, would you like to ask your question on mic, please?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Hello, Mr. Dev. Thank you so much for your insightful presentations. I want to ask you how to deal passive audiences while we are already prepare our presentation as attractive as possible. Thank you.
Did you say how to deal with passive audiences, as in they're reluctant to participate or they're not able to participate?
If they are not listening to us, like not, yeah.
At the end of the day, you can only be a certain level of engaging, and there is always the risk that your audience won't pay attention to you. But I would just say include as many different forms of stimulation as you can. So have visual elements, use your body language. The situation that I was teaching in Australia, I had a lot of learners who required something to touch and hold in order for them to be engaged. So if you can have a handout that people can at least look at when they're getting bored and get the information a different way, any way that you can appeal to the senses and add variety would be the best way to engage them. And if you find that what you're doing isn't engaging your audience, one skill that you will develop is being able to change track mid-presentation. So you will develop a toolkit as a speaker where you will learn more than one way to say something. And if the first way isn't working, you will find another way to deliver that message. But that takes time. And I would say in the beginning, just focus on using as many of the senses as you can to engage the audience in your presentation. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Dave.
No worries.
Thank you very much for your question, Renata, and also, of course, your answer, Mr. Dave. Unfortunately, for all the audiences, I think we only have space for one more question in the question and answer session, as it's going to end in the next 2 minutes. So I'm going to give a chance to Afira Hairunisa from Gajah Mada University to ask the question on mic. Would you like to ask your question on mic, please?
Yes, thank you so much, committee, for the opportunity, and thank you so much, Dave, for the very insightful presentation today. So I wanted to ask a question. Do you have any tips on how to engage an audience in an online platform? Because the tips before, like eye contact or even body gestures, they're very tricky to do in an online.
Yeah.
So that would be my question. Thank you.
Okay. I suppose everything requires adjustment. So posture is still important. Eye contact is still important. It's just how you sit in a chair versus how you stand. So it is still important, as I said, for me to sit properly in the chair so that I'm not all hunched forward, and to look into the camera when I'm speaking so it looks to you like I'm making eye contact with you, even though you probably can't tell, but I'm glancing between your video screen and my camera so that I can read your facial expression and then look like I'm looking at you. So I would say my number one tip for presenting online is figure out how to organize your screen, because organizing your screen properly will make a huge difference on the way your presentation comes across. So for me, I know where my notes go. I know where the participants bar goes. I know where your little video screen goes, so that I can maintain my body language, I can maintain my pace of speech, and I look prepared, even though I don't have a lot of the physical props and the physical space that I would usually use. So while a lot of the things that I suggested are tailored more to in-person speaking, I would say focus on using your screen effectively, and that will probably make a big difference. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for your question, Afira, and your answer too, Mr. Dave. So,
You're welcome.
unfortunately, to all the audiences, this marks the end of the question and answer session because we only have limited time for the event today. So, we're going to move on to the next session. Thank you, Mr. David. Uh, we are very honored that you are able to join us here today. It was really fascinating to hear enthralling tips and tricks on how to enhance our public speaking skills. We hope that the participants can obtain new knowledge here and acquire new skills about public speaking from this webinar. I would also like to thank all the participants for being active and participate in this webinar. As I have stated earlier, your active participation is going to be rewarded with the Best Participant Award. The criteria for the best participant are that she or he has been extremely active and paid close attention to the speaker during this webinar. And now, the moment we all have been waiting for. We would like to announce the best participant for this event. Please give your biggest round of applause to Gabriela Hillary from Teach Indonesia School. Congratulations, Gabriela. We hope this award will motivate you for your future plans ahead. Moving on, before ending this event, let us make a memento by taking a photo and a video together in this photo session. To the documentation division, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Jonathan. Okay, everyone, I will take the picture for documentation. Please turn on your camera. Okay, I will take the picture now from slide 1. 1, 2, 3. Okay, slide 2. 1, 2, 3. Okay, slide 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Slide 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. Now we are gonna take a picture with ALSA SOP to all the participants. Please put your hand like this. To all the participants, please put your hand like this. Okay, from slide 1. 1, 2, 3. Okay, slide 2. 1, 2, 3. Okay, slide 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, slide 4. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Okay, now we're gonna take the video for ALSA SOP. To Bang Angga, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Rico. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Dave, and also to the representative from Wall Street English. Congratulations also to Gabriela for winning the award today and to memorize our event here. I would like to ask the speakers and all of the participants here to unmute themselves and also say ALSA slogan. So after the count of 3, I will say ALSA, and all of you can say always be one while pointing your index finger up. Okay, you can unmute yourself, and I will count to 3. 1, 2, 3. ALSA.
Always be one.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you to the documentation division and also Bang Angga for the documentation session. So moving on. So this marks the end of the public speaking skills webinar pre-event of ALSA Ecom 2021 in collaboration with Wall Street English. We hope the knowledge that we acquired here all today will be a great benefit for our future endeavors. Once again, a very big thank you to the speaker and all participants. And last but not least, ALSA, always be one.